Yo, yo, yo. Hey, guys, welcome back to another awesome edition of the Best Practices Show podcast. My name is Kirk Behrendt, and I have one goal, just one goal here. It's to bring you great information from great thinkers and great leaders in dentistry to help you create a better practice and a better life. And today I bring back an awesome guest. Her name is Dr. Jackie Kinley. And we met her in the pandemic to help us with some of the big challenges that people have when it comes to mental health and mental fitness. And today we talk about connection and the psychological safety of teams. It is awesome. Check it out. I know you'll enjoy it, and we'll see you soon. Hey guys, welcome back to the Best Practices Show podcast. My name is Kirk Behrendt, and I am so thrilled you're here today because I've got one of our great friends that we've gotten to know in the last 2 years to talk about a crazy important subject in dentistry. It's the connection, psychological safety in teams, whole subject area. And I was telling Jackie, you're going to meet Dr. Jackie Kinley in just a second, and she's become a friend of ours since COVID. And I don't proclaim to be an expert in any of these things. And that's why this podcast is so important, because our job is to bring you the best experts to help you sort some things and take away some valuable things to help you create a better practice and a better life. So Jackie, thanks for being on. I appreciate you.
I'm so thrilled to be here, Kirk. I love your energy. I love being with you, and I appreciate all the work all your listeners do.
Hey, and I appreciate you. Now I'm gonna share with you guys who Jackie is. And Jackie, you and I met fresh off of the whole thing called the pandemic. And we didn't even know what we were getting into, but we put together this big marathon of CE, and a lot of our dear friends were like, we need some mental health experts, help in a lot of respects. And your name came up, and we had you on, and I thought to myself, this is awesome. And so you guys are going to see this. Jackie and I are going to be talking about a very important subject. But Jackie, I want people to know who you are first. So give us a little bio from your perspective if somebody hasn't heard you before.
Okay, yeah, I guess so. First of all, people need to know that, I am a psychiatrist, but I really come at medicine. I was an ER physician and a family doc for a long time before. I come at medicine from, I think, a more holistic lens. I want to spend time with people. And so when I moved, from family to psychiatry, it was to be able to be with people. I'm an associate professor in psychiatry, but very holistic. I was actually one of the founding members of the American Board of Holistic and Integrated Medicine years ago when I lived in Colorado. I really, just someone who cares a lot about people, very strongly want to give you the skills and the tools you need, because I appreciate life is difficult and there's a lot of suffering, a lot of unnecessary suffering. So, that's who I am. I'm just here to kind of help you out, and I'm here to give you insight and make things easier for you, because I have been through a lot and I've seen a lot, and just want to make your life better.
Yeah.
Life can be hard. So
absolutely. And you absolutely do. So let's talk about this important subject, which is, what is connection? Can you start there? Like, what is essentially connection?
So connection is something, it's funny, we're talking about what we should focus on. And I think the best way to understand what connection is to understand when it's missing, and I think during COVID, connection has been missing. People have been really missing that feeling, that sort of warmth. It's the energy that flows between two people, right? And it's sustaining, and it's nurturing, and it's important, and it's life-giving. And a lot of people have been starved of connection, right? And so it's essential. And so one of the reasons I thought it would be good for us to talk about that is that I think a lot of people are experiencing, some loneliness, some alienation. A lot of people are getting reconnected, but people are connecting differently now, right? Whether it's by Zoom or coming back in offices, and people are a little bit more apprehensive. And so I just think understanding what connection is, why it's important, and how we build it in a really deliberate and intentional way is, I think, going to be really helpful. So if we could kickstart that conversation, I think that would be a great thing to achieve in the short time we have.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I'm a big fan of what you're talking about too, and let's just go there. And I know nobody knows anything for sure, but prior to
Yeah.
the pandemic, we could feel this coming on with so
Yeah.
much digital information, and then it was
Yeah.
like we got really sick because we couldn't be together. Has the pandemic exacerbated this to a great deal?
Yeah, well, super point. Kirk, you're absolutely bang on. I think before the pandemic, we were starting to notice the impact of what I call, like cell phones. I actually call them alienators because
Hmm.
they actually, even though you're kind of digitally connected to somebody, if we go back to the definition of what connection is, it really is this exchange of real energy and information, not digital. We're analog creatures. We are not digital creatures, right? And so and I think even before COVID, there was a lack of that. People were missing that. And when you don't get connection, when you don't get the warmth and the attention and the love, and you don't feel seen and understood, and you don't feel like you belong, um, it could be really harmful, right?
Yeah.
It creates sadness and fear and anger, and we were seeing some of those things even before the pandemic hit, right? And when people can't deal with their emotions, they end up with symptoms. The pandemic has worsened that,
Yeah.
without a doubt. The loss of connection has been even more exaggerated. And so as a result of that, people's mental health has suffered even more because people are having a lot of emotions and they just don't know how to deal with them. They've never had to deal with emotions like this, right? So
Mhm.
all of a sudden people are feeling overwhelmed. And so how do we safely start to reconnect and help each other, right, and help ourselves through some of these really difficult times?
Yeah, and so I'm 52. Just to give everybody some perspective on this, and I think
You're just a
my
baby,
I
Kirk.
know my wife is 2 years younger than me, and she mentioned this. She said our lives were better before computers, and I was like, "What?" And she said, we're one of the few generations that's going to remember life before computers and
Yeah.
what it was like after computers. And now we've got this whole new generation of people that are learning through computers. And I'll couple that with another statistic that I heard a little while back that's startling. And you can totally tell me if this is off track. But in the United States, it's reported that the average American only has one real friend. And I feel like that's a sad
Ouch.
statement of affairs. And I think about what gives me the greatest joy are just the hugs, the sincere laughter, and just
Yeah.
I mean losing track of time during a dinner and laughing is
Yeah.
like one of my favorite
Yeah.
things ever. And I just I want people to have something to grab onto, because even myself, as much as I love relationships, I felt what you're talking about, where I'm just not connected with the rest of the
Mhm.
universe. And can you speak to that? Like, how do we
Well, you
get connection? Like, where does it come from in the
well,
neurobiology of it?
Yeah, well, you've said things that are really important. I mean, the first thing is that we're social creatures, right? Is
Right.
we actually have social neural circuitry in our brain. I mean, everything in our brain is wired to keep us safe and connected and procreate and to keep our species alive and moving forward, right? So everything wired in us is sort of altruistic in kind of a strange way, but I think, ultimately for us, in order for us to be able to get through some of the challenges, we need to be able to work together. And I think people have really lost that. I mean, it goes back to, I think, what your wife was saying. We're one of the generations where we remember what it's like to feel touched by other people. And right now, people aren't feeling touched. They aren't feeling held. And so we need to be able to help individuals, organizations, teams, bring that back, right? And
Mhm.
so, yeah, so I think that's what we're going to try to, hopefully focus on here in this brief session. But you're not alone. I think I think it's really important to highlight is everybody's feeling an emptiness. I think sometimes when there's a lack of connection, we fill it with productivity. I think that's what technology's done. It's made us feel productive,
Mhm.
which actually feels good. But there's a spiritual emptiness and sort of sort of emotional, longing and hunger, that just being productive, we're not just human doings, right? We're actually human beings, right? So it's really important for us to be in connection with other people and feeling, that's at the end of the day what's really meaningful to us, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I have 4 kids, and we talk about this a lot. You talk about social media and the things that it's very hard not to press the Facebook button every day. It's very
Yeah,
hard
yeah,
to not see what your friends are doing. And I think it works in the reverse way that you would like it to. A lot of times we're like, oh, I want to stay connected with my friends. And my first thought is, they had a
yeah.
party. I wasn't invited. Like, I know all those guys, like, why wouldn't nobody even texted me, type of
Well,
a thing.
it's a really interesting thing that you talk about sort of the Facebook and the sort of addiction, right? Is that a lot of behaviors is that there's instant pleasures. You can sort of get on Facebook and feel like you get a little hit of something, or but they're empty pleasures, right? And
Mhm.
connection is not about that. It's not about that little hit of whatever, it's deeper than that. And so these are sort of empty. Real connection, yeah, you have to work at it. It
Mhm.
doesn't just come. It doesn't just happen. That's why you say I got one or two friends, because friendships aren't, quick and easy, right?
Right.
Connection is hard. And that's what makes it so rewarding, right? Is that you have to work, whether you're an individual, the relationship with yourself, connecting with yourself is really hard. Things about ourselves we don't like, things about ourselves, we have to work through those things. It's emotional, there's vulnerability. Being part of a team, right? In this day of individualism and everything, so I'll just do it my way, right? But connecting and being a part of a team, it's not just going into the office and going in and doing your job and leaving. It's how do you actually connect with the other people in the office? Like how do you become a team? How do you have a
Right.
shared mission, a shared purpose? Like those are things that are lacking, right? Everybody has their own agenda, right? What's
Right.
our shared agenda, right?
Right.
Like at the end of the day, what do we all want, right? And people generally want to feel happy, connected, secure, safe, and that's going to require us working together in different ways. And technology is not going to solve that.
Right. Now go back to that, because you and I were chatting about this before we hit the go button. The psychological safety of being in a team. What does that mean?
Oh God, this is so important because connection requires opening up and letting somebody in. And there's so much vulnerability in that, right? There's fear because if you've ever been part of a group or you've been hurt or you've lost somebody, relationships are hard and they're difficult and they stir a lot of feelings. And so it's about how do I join a team and feel safe?
Hmm.
Right? And so psychological safety is such an important thing, is how do we create an environment that is welcoming, supportive, appreciative, accepting, all of those things, right? And sometimes when we're really busy and we're really stressed out, and we're anxious or nervous or scared, we kind of lock in and we close off. And so sometimes workplaces, not by intention, right, but just by design, right, can be unwelcoming and busy. And so it's about being very deliberate in creating spaces where people can just come together and support each other, right,
Right.
and care about each other, not care for each other, but care about each other, right? And if we don't have places like that, people aren't going to feel safe. They're not going to feel open. They're not going to be willing to connect. So yeah, it's just a place where you can go and be yourself. I mean, Kirk, you must have one or two friends, but there's also places where you can just go and be yourself
Yeah.
and feel like you can belong and let your guard down.
Right. Now, I would hope I have a lot more friends than that. I just heard that
And I
statistic.
knew.
And so, like,
Oh, I know, I know.
I want to give myself some credit here, like, but
No, it's fine.
I feel those things as I see those in the world. And then you mentioned another thing, when you don't have the psychological safety in teams, and you were mentioning there's a difference between having an office and having a team. What people do is they kind of
Yeah.
overfunction and become resilient individuals within this environment, right?
Yeah, well, I think that sort of offices can, you can be part of an office but not be part of a team. And I think that's sort of, you think, oh, I'm part of a group, I'm part of a team, but I've worked in a lot of places that they're really not teams, right?
Right.
Teams care about each other. They have kind of a shared purpose. They're willing to sacrifice for other team members. Sometimes you don't see that in offices, right? You see people go, I'm going to come in, I'm going to do my job. This is what it is. And people, because people are doing the best with the resources they have. They're tired, right?
Right.
They're tired. And I think what we don't realize is sometimes the more we can slow down and connect with each other and become a team, and then we're all better as a result of that, right? But as I say, it can be hard for people. It can be difficult, and teams require leadership. I think this is another piece, is that you need leaders that help to promote connection, create a culture where people can feel engaged and they're part of something and they're making a difference and they're not just foot soldiers, right? Just sort of,
Right.
yeah. And so there's a deliberate and an intentional thing that has to happen at a leadership level to be able to create teams. People need to be part of something. They want to be part of something. They not only want to go to work, but they want to be part of something. They want to make a difference. They want to feel like they have a purpose. I think we have to really create that for people. And I think COVID's made it really clear that more and more, it's not just going to work. Like just having a job's not enough. Like
Right.
people want more than that now. People want meaning in their life. They want to, yeah, yeah, they want to feel like they're part of something that's bigger than themselves, right?
Yeah, and we have a lot, I mean, thousands of dentists that listen to this and many people in the dental community. And a lot of them are, scientifically based. I mean, everything is
Oh
about
yeah.
the science. And so, speak to the benefits, the neurobiology. Well, like what really happens in our bodies when
Oh,
we feel the connection and how it can benefit, because it's more than just a feeling that it creates when you have
oh.
the connection. There's multiple benefits.
Absolutely. So, it's really important sort of separating. This is not about not being productive, right? It's not about losing sight of the outcome. I understand at the end of the day we got an office, we got to get the job done. But recognizing that it's through relationship. We don't have to sacrifice relationship to get outcomes. In fact, if we leverage relationships, we'll get to outcomes better, faster, and it'll feel good along the way. And so connection helps to generate a lot of positive, dopamine feels good, the serotonin, right? It quiets our nervous system down, it increases our motivation, desire, we're more energized. I mean, all it changes our state of mind. Like when we're feeling safe and connected, our brain is relaxed and
Right.
it's open, it's not constricted. And so things flow better, things work better, and so we perform better, right? And so when you create an environment, right, which is safe and welcoming, your employees not only feel better, but they actually do better, right? And so, which is totally the opposite. When people are afraid, right, that sort of area in your brainstem gets kicked up, and your stress hormones kick in. It interferes with your thinking, your concentration. You don't perform well, right? So it's really important is that creating settings and environments and we call them milieus in which people can actually grow and develop and flourish and thrive and perform, right?
Right.
Which is yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and it's not too far fetched if you really don't know a whole lot about how this actually works on the brain or the body. You can see it in sports all the time, or even the
Yeah.
smallest, organizations where people all commit to the same value system. They're open, they're, vulnerable, and they just perform well. You'll see some of the best things come out of people who aren't extremely talented, and it just makes the entire group better. And I see it in dental practices all the time. But Jackie, let's say I'm a dentist listening, and I'm 32 and I'm just really struggling. Like, what are some of the barriers? Like, Jackie, you don't understand my practice. Like, I'm trying and no one's connecting and I just feel
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
alone. And I can speak to that because being an entrepreneur, you already
yeah,
feel alone. Like there's not the entrepreneurial group that you meet up with every day at 4 o'clock and just have a cocktail with, so speak to that.
well, so I think you build connection at different levels and resilience at different levels. And so first of all is at an individual level, right? Sort of at a personal level is how do you kind of connect with yourself? How do you recognize your strengths? How do you take care of yourself? How do you support yourself? How do you, build your own mental fitness so you can show up and be the best leader or the best, whatever, the best father, the best, podcast host. Doesn't matter. But so you can perform really, really well, right? So it starts with you. Nothing grows from the outside in. It always grows from the inside out, right? So it starts with, knowing yourself. So, there's lots of ways you can do that. You can assess your level. You can get training and coaching and all those things. Build that insight. And then it starts with team. Is okay, where's my team? You can actually assess teams. You can say, okay, how resilient are they? How psychologically safe are they? If you want to understand what's going on with my office, right? You can actually assess that. It's very simple. It's not, sort of judgmental or critical. It's really about understanding and being curious and
Right.
where are growth opportunities, right? And you can do that. You can do that with teams, right? And you can help them because, as you say, teams have that sort of second order. They're emergent, right? Is that the more resilient the individuals are and self-aware they are, just the whole team performs better, right? And so everybody benefits. So there's a lot of different things that individuals can do, right? In an organization, you can be curious yourself. What's resilience? How do I build it? What's mental fitness? How do I get stronger so I can be a better leader? I can be a better teammate, right? And then how do I bring it to my team? How do I build awareness amongst my team? Is about how do we take care of our brains? How do we be a brain safe office, right? What is
Hmm.
that? How do we build the mental fitness of our office, right? And there's a lot of ways that you can actually, do that, right? Whether it's starting with a talk, whether it's bringing in somebody to do some training with your office, and it's fun, right?
Right.
It's proactive, it's fun, it's strengths based. Everybody wants to be their best, do their best. So let's help them with that, right? That's one of the things that we do at the Institute is we help come in, we do individual and team training and, and development and have fun doing it. Because I think that's another thing that's come out of the pandemic. It's not about just bringing people together to work and build and do things, but it's how do we have fun doing it, right?
Yeah.
It's been a heavy 2 years. Let's have some fun, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it should be a fun thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and absolutely. Is this true?
Yeah.
Like, one of the things I've always been taught or heard is that rituals create new pathways, neural
Yeah.
pathways, whether it be with family, just having dinner or vacations. Some of you listening, you've always gone to the lake, you've always done this, and it creates these positive memories. And then, I just had a great experience, and I'm blessed to have this experience. My wife and I, with our children being on two different sports teams, and the coaches were adamant, like, we're all going to go to dinner at this place. You might not like it, but this is what team is all
Yeah.
about. And actually, I'm so thrilled that we had a schedule, the rituals, and it was awesome. And it adds to the collective experience about what you believe in these
Yeah.
relationships, true or false.
Oh, true, true. And you highlight something that's so important is that there is no pleasure without pain. And so
Mm,
what happens is, oh, I have to go. I got to make time for it. I got to go to the gym. I got to work out. I got to exercise. I have to do these things. And pleasure without effort is just, it doesn't hold in the same way. And the fact that you had to make an effort and make a sacrifice and get out there and put effort in, it makes the pleasure all that much greater.
yeah.
So it's really important to highlight that is that happiness is associated with stretching yourself and doing things that in the short term might actually be difficult and uncomfortable, but in the long term they're so rewarding, right?
Yeah.
So I just really want to highlight that. That's a great effort. Is that we have to put the so great example. We have to put the effort in. Happiness doesn't just happen. It comes from a result. It is a result of us putting in the effort.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What else are you seeing? Because you get a chance to talk to a lot of people. You coach people
Yeah.
all day. What are some trends that you're seeing, both good and negative, since the pandemic about connection?
Well, I think probably in terms of the trends, in terms of the good ones, because I think there's lots of good ones. Is I think that a lot of people are starting to recognize, that they're human, right, and that they
Hmm.
need, to make an effort. They need to reach out. It's been easy to isolate and close off because we've had to, and we haven't been able to. But stretching themselves and making the effort and re-engaging is rewarding. It's
Yeah.
hard, but it's rewarding and it's really necessary. And that's where the nourishment comes from, right? Relationships nourish us. People don't realize that they're like food, for the soul, right? And so I think people are starting to recognize that, and they're realizing that. And I think what I am seeing, though, on the other side, is that there is a lot of fear, there is a lot of anger, there's a lot of inability to tolerate emotions. Like, people haven't learned the difference between emotion and behavior. People get angry and they act out. You can get angry, right? And you can feel sad, but you're still accountable for your behavior.
Right.
So understand where the anger is coming from, and then use that energy in a positive way, right? Like, emotions can be used for good and they can be used for bad, right? They're just energy, right?
Yeah.
And so it's really about, I really encourage people, that if you're feeling sad, grieve, go through the loss. If you're feeling angry, figure out what's the violation, where have your values been, and then have a conversation, like show up and work through it, right? And if you're scared, prepare, step in, like take positive action. Don't be a slave to your emotions. And
Right.
I think what we're seeing is a lot of people are acting, sort of decorticate. They're just feeling things and reacting, and they're not leveraging what makes us human, which is our capacity to take that information, put it into context, and stay in relationship in a positive way to make a positive difference. There's a lot of anger, there's a lot of fear, and I think people don't realize that they've lost control of their minds to some extent,
Right.
and that they have control,
Yeah. And I'm
and
going to
they need
speak.
to. Yeah.
Yeah, and just to that point, like you're provoking some emotion with me, and I'm just going to speak from my vantage point. Like, I do
Yeah.
not enjoy Twitter at all. I don't.
No.
Twitter just makes me angry. It makes me frustrated. I turn it on, and it's like catastrophe after catastrophe, and
Yeah.
it's extremely divisive. So if you're a Twitter fan, I'm sorry. I just had to speak. I even feel a little bit of that from Facebook. Now, I'm kind of beaten up on social media here, but I never feel more pleasure once I get off of social media for a few minutes. I always feel a little bit like, ugh, what a waste of time. Now, you can couple that with people's sleep patterns, their ability not to
Yeah.
exercise. And I'm fascinated by the number of young dentists that don't exercise anymore. And I'm just like, dude, you've got 3 decades of practice in front of you. How can you say I don't have time to exercise? So my hope is, if anyone's listening to this, everybody's in the same boat. It's just one foot in front of the other. Day after day, make little steps in progress. Maybe get a little bit more sleep. Maybe go to the gym instead of checking Twitter. I mean, again, you're the expert. I'm just asking, am I on the right path or not?
Well, I think there's a couple of really important things. Is it's not that social media is the villain, it's how you use it,
Mm.
right? So if you're just sort of passively scrolling and sort of observing and comparing and everything, you're just going to be miserable, right? But if you're using it to get out a message or share something that's important or whatever, then that's great. But most people don't use it in a positive way. Most people tend to use it in a passive, kind of way, which is totally not healthy and just takes you down the rabbit hole and you feel miserable.
Right.
So, but what you are saying is about habits and about putting in an effort. And sometimes we have a world where pleasure's easy. I can just sit in front of the TV and I can, grab a popcorn and, whatever, and, just sit there. But without effort, right, pleasure's empty. So it's in the short term that might feel nice, but in the long term, it's going to undermine your health. It's going to undermine your self-esteem. It's going to undermine all of those things. It's like not going to the gym. It's easier to not go to the gym, right? I'll just go home and do whatever because I'm tired and exhausted. It's actually, this is where, strength of character comes in. I'm really important. Really, this whole idea of character is that, it's having the capacity and the mental discipline, right, and the fortitude to be able to put in effort, right?
Mm-hmm.
You go and hike a mountain, not because you love hiking a mountain, it's because you're proud of yourself. You feel good. Your body's energized as a result of the effort. You don't go for a run because you like running. I don't know, a lot
Mm-hmm.
of people like running. You go for a run because you get out there, and as you get there, you feel good at the end of the run because you've put in the effort, and your body rewards you as a result of that. It's like going to the pizza party with the hockey team. Oh God, I'm really tired, I got to change. You get out there and you're rewarded as a result of the effort. And so what you're saying is that people aren't willing to put in the effort. Things have become
Hmm.
easy. It's a culture of complacency, and you become mentally fat. And when you get mentally fat, it's like getting physically unwell. Obesity, mental obesity is a problem. Okay. And
Yeah.
so this is about putting in the effort. And when you do, your your neurochemistry will reward you. You will feel good. It generates more dopamine. It generates more serotonin. And when you connect with people, there's more oxytocin. These things feel good, right? So if you want to feel good, you have a choice, right? You can go for the easy pleasures short term. They're actually not going to feel good in the long term. They're going to
Right.
undermine your health and happiness, which is such a strange paradox, right? Because why don't I just go to the drive-through, right?
Yeah.
Whereas if I actually sit down and make a meal with somebody and have it, that's what communion is, right?
Right.
Connection is communion. It's when we connect as community together. That's what feeds our soul, right?
Right.
It's so important, right? And these quick pleasures we can enjoy on our own, but we lose the connection and there's no sustenance in them, right?
Yeah, the mental obesity. Go back to that. I mean, that's very powerful what you just said.
Yeah.
And what are the impacts of mental obesity? I would guess it's just like having
Oh,
physical obesity. You're going to look for the pill that's going to get rid of the obesity, right? Is that
well,
typically what happens in some cases?
absolutely. Absolutely, that to sort of deal with the downstream effects. But the other thing that happens is that when stress comes, you don't have the strength to be able to deal with it. This is why I
Hmm.
talk about mental fitness, right? Is that, making decisions, and asserting yourself and setting boundaries and taking care of yourself, all those things, they take effort, right?
Right.
They take effort, but they strengthen you, right? If you sit around and don't do those things, then when a stress hits you, you're just a sitting duck. You don't have the strength. You don't have it in you. You haven't built the resources, right? You haven't fortified yourself. So this is, I think, what's happening. People talk about fragility. People are fragile. People can't handle things. It's just deconditioning. It's not that they can't handle things. It's that in this state they can't handle things, right? But you
Right.
can change your state of mind. That's what resilience coaching and training, mental fitness training is, right? Is that we help you, right, to learn how to manage your emotions, how to plan, how to set goals, how to make decisions, how to collaborate with people, right?
Yeah.
Those things are hard,
Yeah.
right? And what you're seeing in the world is a result of people not doing them.
Right. So take us through that because you had shared this with us when we started the pandemic that you teach people mental fitness. So what
Yeah.
is that? What does it look like? How do you do that when you're
Yeah.
coaching somebody?
Well, a couple things. We have a new app that's just come out called Airspace. It's a little bit different. It's really about mental fitness training, right? And so, but we've done it, for years, like one on one, just assessing and coaching people. And what it is it's sort of getting a sense of what your psychological strengths are. What are your tendencies? What are your strengths? What are your growth opportunities? And for some people, it's like they just don't have mental discipline, right? They don't plan. They don't make decisions. They procrastinate. They put things off. And as a result, things pile up. They end up anxious, overwhelmed. Some people don't have perspective. They don't kind of check in with themselves. They don't check their biases and stuff. They just don't, they don't take the time to do those things. Some people emotionally, they never pay attention to what they feel in their body until they're physically sick. They've got ulcers or irritable bowel, like their body starts, it's inflamed, right? Because they have all this emotion that they've never actually dealt with. And other people, they emotionally and psychologically just can't step into relationship with people, right? They don't know how to connect. They can't tolerate intimacy, right? They don't know how to set boundaries, all of those things. So it's about helping people develop those skills. And it's so interesting. I was saying the other day to a group of people that it's a work in, physically you work out, you go to the gym and you lift weights and everything. A work in is like, I want something, but wait a sec. How do I stop? How do I say no? How do I set that boundary? How do I set that limit? I'm at a meeting. I'm emotional. I'm angry. I'm upset. How do I settle down? And it's a work in. People don't see it. People don't see what you're doing, right? They don't actually see it. But It's so powerful and it's so effective. So an example is now you're sitting here with me, right? You've
Mhm.
probably got all kinds of things going on, but you're being really careful. You're mindful. You're picking. You're filtering. You're doing a lot of mental work right now, right? People don't see it, but I know you're doing it. You know you're doing it, and it's hard.
Right.
And the more you do it, the better you get at it, right?
Yeah.
So these are the things, right? Is that mentally you are exercising, and we teach people how to do that. That we teach them how to filter stuff out, how to deal with emotions as they surface, right? How to connect with people, how to back off, how to set boundaries. It's emotional stuff. They're work-ins, right? But they're very, very powerful. And then what happens is you walk around the world and you feel like, I know myself. I'm in control of myself. I know where I am. I know where you are. I can read you. I can read me, right? People get psychologically stronger, right?
Yeah.
And then they perform really well and they show up well and they're good in relationship, right? And they feel good because they don't feel out of control. They don't
Right.
feel anxious and scared. When they get angry, but they're not overtaken by it.
Right.
Yeah, they can be the master of themselves, right?
Yeah.
They can master their own mind, right?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
love that. We always say, your problems are not your problems, they're how you think about your problems. And so you're
yeah.
really the expert in there. And then I'm going to totally screw up this quote, but Covey used to talk about the gap between stimulus and response. He said, that was one of his favorite things is, there are things that happen and it's the gap between what happens and how you respond to them that really determines who you become. And it's your choices and things like that. And understanding how to manage that gap is crazy important. So,
So to build on that, I always say resilience is the space between reaction and response.
ooh, I love
That's where
that.
resilience lives. Resilience is a process, right? It's something that you do and you can build your strength at it. Some people, oh, you're resilient, you're not. It just means, hey, I got a bigger buffer. I know how to move in that space, right? But resilience is the space between reaction and response. So I'm talking to you, there's stuff going on, you're right. And
Right.
then you're coming back, right? And so that's what resilience is. It's that space. It's inner space. We focus on outer space and everything that goes on in the world. Inner space is the next frontier, right? That's why these are work-ins, right? Inner space is vast, and it's where peace of mind sits, right?
Yeah.
It's where peace of mind lives. And so this is about mastering inner space, right?
I love it. I want people to know how to find out more about what you do in your programs. But before we do that, just any last thoughts that you have on connection or just last bits of
Yeah.
advice you'd share.
Well, first of all, it's a pleasure being with you always, and I love these conversations. But I really do think that life is relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Life is all about relationships. We are particle and wave. We are constantly in relationship with ourselves and with other people. So life is connection, right? And so if we don't have connection, we're not going to survive, right? So it's like it's it's fundamental, okay? And so we can think I can do it all myself. The reality is we can't.
Right.
And so the sooner we understand that and the sooner we recognize our interdependence, not just with each other, but with the world that we live in, the environment that we live in, as soon as we accept, the fact that we are interdependent beings, um, oh God, the sooner we're going to get to that little pot of gold at the end of the rainbow.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Jackie, I always enjoy my conversations with you, and I know you have a ton to share. We're going to have you back, cover some other subjects. But
Yeah, that's great.
can you guys, how do I find out more about you? If I just want to have a
Oh,
conversation with
yes,
you and
please,
I'm a
please.
listener, how do I do that?
Yeah, www.air-institutes.com. And we have a website you can go on, you sign up for coaching, you can join a group, you can download our app. Our app's going to come out next year. It's not to consumers, right? But you're for your office, for an organization, you can access the app. There's lots of stuff. We're doing tons of stuff, and we're here for you, like individually, as a leader, or as a team, right? Lots that we can do to help. And we train resilience coaches and champions too. So if you got somebody in your office or somebody who wants to be a resilience coach, reach out. Happy to pass on the knowledge, and we don't need to do it for you.
Yeah. That's
You can do
awesome.
it yourself.
Jackie, I am so grateful, and thank you so much. And if you're listening to the podcast and you didn't take notes, don't worry. We're always taking notes for you. So you can flip up to the notes section, either Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes, wherever, and you're going to see all the links that Jackie's mentioned. You can click right on them. It'll take you directly to her website, and you can reach out and check out her stuff. I'm telling you, it is fantastic. And if you're an Act U member, you'll see a bunch of courses that she did for us so graciously during the pandemic, and they are wonderful. So thank you so much for being on, Jackie. Really appreciate it. Awesome.
You take care of yourself.
You got it. Well, stick around while I say goodbye to everybody else, but thank you guys for listening to the Best Practices Show podcast. If you enjoyed today, just do us a favor. Hit the share button, share with your friends. Keep sending us suggestions for things that you guys want to see and questions that you have. I'll have Jackie back and we'll ask her the tough questions and have her give us her expertise on those things. So until we see you guys next time or you hear from us next time, keep watching the Best Practices Show. You guys enjoy the rest of your day.